So yeah, we're here every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Just looking to help out with anything we can underwriting related. So please, if you have any questions, let us know in the chat. One of us will be able to answer it. Or if you have any additional comments you want to make to the topic we're discussing, please throw it in there. Make sure you connect with each other. That's one of the biggest things about this is just networking with each other.
That's right. You see a missing baby face in here. Will Otis is not gonna be able to join us tonight like he usually does, but we'll have fun anyway. Oh, we have a special guest just signing on today. So welcome, Mr. G. It's a pleasure and an honor having you on here. So thanks for joining us. We're gonna go through today's agenda, and then we're gonna make a few introductions and kind of get to know each other a little bit. As we go into the next part, I just want you guys to put on here, if this is your first time on the call, put a 1 in the chat. A lot of you look familiar, so there's probably only a couple of you that have that are first timers for us here. But if this is your first time, put a 1 in the chat. We want to know and talk to you. So we're gonna go through our introduction. Hey, awesome, good stuff. Then we go through our ecosystem and talk about what it is that we offer as the Freedom Chasers. Then we're going to talk about a very important topic today. We're just going to talk about revenue. We're going to go through a T12 and go through some of the GL codes and line items that you guys are looking at as you're prepping to get to the next level of underwriting, to the actual analysis of it. And then we're going to grab our napkin. So if you have a deal you'd like for us to just napkin underwrite on here, let us know. We'd love to throw some numbers. If not, Ed has a graveyard of deals that we can pull from, and we can just throw in the napkin. So with that, who are we? Well, Ed, tell us a little bit about you, man.
So yeah, my name is Edward Shamirian, based out of Los Angeles, California, as many of you may know. Been in real estate. Actually, I have my agent license here, but I am actually just recently starting up a brokerage, so that's fun. Been in the multifamily game for quite some time now. Own some stuff out here in California, and working on a few things in the Florida and Georgia markets. So I'm very open to any market because everywhere's a flight for me. So it doesn't matter if it's where it is out of state. I'm open to everything. And I just love this game. Multifamily is so fun for me. It's exciting, and I'm always here to help out. If you guys need me, my number is in my name on the call. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My name is Aldo and Edward, and my brother from another mother, Will Otis, is unable to be on tonight, but he is my ride or die for the last several years, over a decade now. We've been in each other's lives, and we have a collective almost 25 years of experience in operations in the senior living space, as both in operation and asset management more recently. And so we're coming at this with a nice little different perspective, and excited to break into this space on our own, like a lot of you are doing with your W-2s. That is our W-2 currently. A lot of you are doing your W-2s and trying to chase that freedom through real estate investment. So with that, we're gonna go and see who is out there for us to talk to. So if this is your first time, please feel free to introduce yourself. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and just right off the bat, I'm gonna pick on you, Ken, if that's okay. Can you introduce yourself to us? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, man. So my name's Ken Gee. I am the managing member here at KRI Partners. It's my company. I started about 25 years ago. All we've ever done is multifamily. Our senior management team in total has probably managed like 16,000 units. We've done hundreds of millions of dollars in deals, and I'm just like you, just trying to get to the next level, man.
I love it. Thank you so much. Kenji is the man to know when it comes to underwriting. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. We're going to highlight that. So you're going to get a little bit of a shout out there, Ken.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. If you haven't been to the activation Zooms, he's been on twice, I believe. You've been on twice with us. Yeah, it's been awesome, really energizing, and comes with a ton of wisdom, obviously. And you know, we hear about market conditions, underwriting, and just what's going on out there on the real. So thanks, Ken, and we appreciate you very much for being a part of
Well,
this.
thanks.
ecosystem.
Thanks for welcoming me. I really appreciate it. I
Absolutely.
learn a lot every single time I jump on these calls. So you guys are doing unbelievable. Trust me.
You are the man. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
Real quick, for those of you wondering what those random links I posted in the chat are. So for first comers, one of them is for you to fill out your information. What that essentially does is it takes all the information you input, fills up the second or the other link, I don't know which, and their spreadsheet. The spreadsheet essentially shows everyone who's ever filled out that form's information. So if you're like me, where you're not investing in the city or state that you live in, and you're like, hey, I'm looking for someone who has boots on the ground, or someone who can tell me about a specific neighborhood, or I'm just looking for people to build a team with or ask questions. You'll find a lot of people on that doc. I think it's very valuable because as you can see right now, there's 20 people on here. That sheet has a lot more than 20 people. Utilize that, and the intention behind that was for you to have an opportunity to connect with anyone in this group. They'll obviously know where you got their information from once you say MFC, so you have that common ground. You know you're working towards similar goals, which is another thing. You get to align with people who want the same outcome, which is owning multifamily. So use that to your as much as you'd like. Share with other people you think it could benefit. And then fill it out yourself as well. Obviously, just be aware that that information will be shared. So if there's any phone number or email you're not comfortable sharing, please keep that in mind, because that we do post that link often. So
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you posting on there, and watch out for other links that we're going to be sending out your way soon as well. So with that, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about our ecosystem, a community like no other. So we're not just a group of people that, you know, put out random content. We have a specific mission that we want to fulfill, and that is through this large group that you see here. It was started by the three Freedom Boys on the left. On Sunday nights, they put on an activation Zoom, and we talked to the likes of Ken G. We've had, you know, other people as well on here, Gabe Bowling and Vita Jenny, and many other people that are several steps ahead of where, you know, a lot of us are definitely where I am. And it's a really good time to not only get activated, but also understand the game and understand the right mindset to have to be in this industry. And of course, then on Mondays, we have throughout the week, what we do is we take action. And on Mondays, we learn about how to talk to brokers. What kind of, that's right, we have it with Mr. Ed, and also with Peter St. Martin. And, you know, they go through all kinds of
role play recordings, brokers. Essentially what the objective of the broker call is to make everyone comfortable with picking up the phone, talking to a broker about a deal that they're interested in. And more importantly, is building that relationship so you get deals that aren't even on the market yet or aren't being advertised yet. Majority of the deals that you see online, it's already been through multiple different people's underwritings. You want to try to get stuff before it gets to that point. I think it's very important in today's market. It's important in this space as well. The more exclusive and VIP you are with a broker, the more valuable you are, and it's a very competitive market, so it's important to make your best impression and be able to relate to these brokers.
That's right. It's relationship management, and they're a part of your team. So it's important to have a good relationship with your brokers and also be able to get the right information so that once you have a deal, you can bring the details you got from the broker over to our napkin underwriting, and we can plug in some numbers for you and help you kind of navigate through whether this is a good deal to dive deeper into or not. Or you can do it yourself as you're learning, you know, how to best napkin underwrite these deals. And then once you have something that looks good, and if you have a deal, you need money, right? And so on alternating Wednesdays, we have the Miles family, who is, our designated freedom chaser debt brokers, and they talk about the state of the what am I saying here? The state of basically the debt, and how the rates are right now, especially with all the volatility that is happening. They do a really great job of informing us, where we sit as far as, the treasury with the different types of debt vehicles and how to best fund and finance a deal. And then on the other alternating Wednesday, we have Victor and to the G, our very own Freedom Boyd, and he gets into more advanced underwriting tactics that we do not cover on this one. So please be sure to join them as they go through that. So, and one really important thing that we're trying to really push, a message that we're trying to push to everybody, is that we want to cater to three different people basically, and through this ecosystem we want you to find out what bucket you fall into. Number one bucket is you come in here, you get the information that you need to learn and understand that this is not for you. You might be like, hey, sorry, I don't want to, I don't want to invest my time, energy, or money into this industry. You guys do your thing. I'm gonna go try something else. Absolute respect. Definitely don't push yourself to do something you don't want to do. Bucket number two is, hey, I'm starting to learn a lot about these things. I love this industry and this sector, but I don't want to spend my time sponsoring people or getting really into the weeds. So I'm going to be an LP, or I would like to invest into somebody that is doing all of that work, while at the same time I'm getting the education that I need to be able to tell if a deal is good or not. And obviously bucket number three is like, you've come to our Zooms, you're starting to learn the basics of how we do things. And not only do you want to be not only do you want to spend time in this industry as an operator, but also you want to go into the next step, because what we offer here, it's all free, by the way. What we offer here is all free, and it's all the basic information that you need to get started into the real estate multifamily investing. But it isn't all that you need. There are many people out there that have courses, have masterminds, etc. And so what we want to do is offer you the tools and the different partners that we've come along and said, hey, you guys have done great, or that we've experienced out there, and give back to you in a way, in a meaningful way, with our preferred partners program. And so we have, I don't know, have we launched that yet, Ed? I don't know that we have or not.
I think it's coming soon, but the guys will be able to talk about it on Sundays.
Absolutely. So they'll talk about that on Sundays. And in fact, one of our preferred program partners is on here with us today, and that is Mr. Ken G. And Mr. Ken G puts on an amazing class on underwriting, absolutely everything that you need to know. And he was on a couple of weeks ago, and just the value that he brought that day was huge in and of itself in a 1 hour. And this is an entire course on underwriting. So I'm going to share this link with you guys that they have provided to us. So it is an affiliate link, and it gives you a little bit of a discount into that, and also access to this course. And so if you guys are interested in learning more about underwriting, please feel free to check out his course and learn from a professional. You heard it from himself. He's done millions and millions of dollars in assets, and also thousands of units operated and gone through cycles. So Mr. G.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. G, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what you get. So yeah, you get my training, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step, but I'm going to tell you exactly what we do every single deal we underwrite. And it's the same way we've been underwriting for 20 plus years. and it has never failed us yet. Number one. Number two, you get the same spreadsheet that we use every single day, and you get our version of your napkin underwriting. We just have a little version on steroids that within 5 minutes you can size up a deal using napkin underwriting. And the last thing that we just did, and it's because I want people to be successful. You know, I can put together a great course, but the reality of it is, as you're going through this stuff, it's all new, man. And there's going to be times when you're not sure. What does this mean? What did he mean by that? What should I do here? This is a little different. So we do a call every Thursday at noon, and it's included with this class. And it's 1 hour. It's me, Max, and whoever shows up. And we're going to walk you through whatever it is that you're struggling with. You know, last week we had a lady on that bought the course, and she was trying to figure out how to do the rent stack. She didn't understand how to figure this out and figure that out. We literally walked her through it right there live, because that's what really happens when you do these courses, is you go through the course and then you start to do it yourself, and then you stumble. You're like, man, I know he said it seemed easy, but I don't understand right now. That's where I want to be there for you every week, because I don't want to just sell you a course. I want to change your life. That's why I'm doing this, right? I don't need the money for the course. That's not going to change my life. I care about changing your life, and I want to be there every week for you. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what you get, because I think it is so important, because for 25 years, I watched people try to do this thing, and it's always the underwriting that scares the hell out of them, because it just is, for many people, it's like this thing that's just unconquerable, and it's really not that hard. Once you conquer it, once you get confident in underwriting, when you do a deal, you're now confident because you know the numbers aren't going to hurt you. So anyway, there you go. Just wanted to share that with you, because I feel pretty strongly that we're gonna, we're trying to really help you guys. 25 years ago, a lot of people helped me, and it's my time to give back. So that's why we're here.
And I want to add one more thing to that. When you look at a calculator, especially even if it's ours or if it's Mr. G's, but you can go through a course, and I think the biggest value with that every week call is you may plug in numbers and think you're doing everything right. I think the point of underwriting could be intimidating, because you may think you're doing everything right, and then you look at someone else looks at it like, but how about this, or you missed this, or this is in the wrong place. All of a sudden the whole thing crumbles, and you're like, oh my God, I've been doing every single deal wrong, and you just want to give up. Like, as many deals as you underwrite, you're not going to be perfect every time. You're going to make mistakes. It's good having somebody and putting those reps in to make sure you're putting the right practice. That's the most important part, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I agree. Let me just say one more thing, and that is that as you're going through this process, it's really important to me that you understand. See, a lot of people come to me and say, Ken, I took this course, I took that course, but I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I'm like, oh man, this makes me cringe. And so what I've tried to focus on in this course and in these weekly calls is I'm going to tell you what you should do. I'm going to tell you how to do it. We're going to literally teach you exactly what we do. And then I'm going to tell you why you're doing it. Because the reality of this is every deal is going to look different. And somebody's not going to be there in every single deal, because every deal has its little twists and turns. They just do. But if you understand why you're doing every little thing that you're doing, you can handle any twist and turn, because you can fall back on the why. I know what I'm trying to accomplish here. I know why I'm doing this. I know what adjustment I have to make, because this guy's deal is different than the last one. So I just wanted to point that out, because that's what gets you over the hump. Because once you know why you do something, it's just like teaching a man to fish. He's eating forever, right? It's not just show him where the fish is. You got to show him how to fish, and then you got to show him why he needs to fish the way he needs to do it. And once you do that, he's golden. So sorry, man. I just wanted to make sure that I added that in there.
No, this is great, and this is huge, Ken. We just so appreciate you adding that little bit of context to it as well, because you're absolutely right. It comes down to principles. And you're both right. Anyone that's ever done any underwriting in an analyzer knows and understands that it changes. Even within the single deal, it changes constantly. And it's like learning a language and understanding grammar. And it's just, it's a bear. So thank you for that. And guys, this
You bet.
is huge. So
Yeah, well, one last thing, you can never, ever, ever rely on an analyzer, no matter whether it's mine, yours, Michael Blank's, doesn't matter whose it is. You can never, ever rely on an analyzer blindly. You cannot. You've got to know what every number means and why it's there, because then you'll know you're good. All right, man, I'll mute. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
no, that's perfect.
Thank you. I feel like we can talk about that alone all day. But yeah, it's really, it is important. Like, you guys are on this call for a reason, right? Like, you want to get comfortable with just the surface level underwriting. And I know I've been in part of programs that's taught me underwriting and ask questions. That's why we're on here. That's why our phone numbers are here. It's not just because I want everyone to know my phone number. Like, that's literally, if you call it, this is gonna ring right now. Well, you get it. I'm holding my phone, but you get what I mean. At the end of the day, ask questions. Like, I've gone on Zoom calls one-on-one with people in the community pretty often, actually. And I'm actually, hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll PSAs agreed on with people from this community. Like, put yourself out there, and we want to work together with everyone. We want you guys to work together. We don't just do this for fun. Although it is fun, we want everyone to benefit from it. You know, if Aldo and I aren't sitting here, this call's not happening. But we want everyone to benefit from that. So connect with each other, ask questions, and work together, and let's knock out some deals, because they're out there. I have 2 on my plate right now, so they're definitely out there.
That's right. All right, awesome. This is one of the best ways to contact us. As Ed said, our phone numbers are on our names here on Zoom. Also, my Instagram handle is on there as well. Feel free to hit me up and DM me on there. We're pretty responsive. And these are our emails as well. If you have any deals that you ever have a question about and would like a second opinion on anything, please let us know. Feel free to send that out to us. So take a snapshot of that or write it down, whatever you need to do. And then on to today's topic. So actually, we're pretty much out of time here, but that's okay. I wanted to go through just something really quick. You know, when it comes to underwriting, what we do and what we've been teaching here and what we've been going over is napkin underwriting, and you can do that literally with a napkin. Like, you can do it with a calculator and, you know, try to figure out whether you want to pursue a deal or not. We've created a little calculator to help you just plug in a few numbers and make things a little bit easier for you, and to be able to see just a little bit more beyond napkin underwriting, but it isn't full-on underwriting. So, you know, once you go through our little napkin underwriting tool and you decide you want to go into the next stage, there are other things that you need to consider more deeply. For example, the T12. And, you know, one of the biggest drivers of the success of an asset is the revenue, right? And you need to understand where the revenue is coming from, the story that a T12 tells you around revenue, and also what you can count on for the future of your asset as you underwrite things. Because some of these line items, some of these GL codes, they don't always really make sense, or they're tied to something else. They're tied to the management company, or their ghost numbers, or their contra revenue line items, which, you know, we can talk about later on. But you know, some of the key components really quickly, because we don't really have a ton of time. And by the way, if you have a deal, please you know, just go ahead and raise your hand now if you have a deal that you want to go over. And once we're done here, we can go over that. So if you do, raise your hand. If not, we can put something on here. So I'm just going to start from the top and kind of go down here a little bit. So, you know, with rent and revenue, that we can, we're just talking with Ed about this. You can spend hours just talking about rent and revenue, the different types of rents that are out there, whether it's you know, Section 8 vouchers, rent control, whether it's market rates, how to determine market rates, you know, the different data points that you look at in order to determine whether the market rate is going to continue going up, whether it's going to flatline, or whether it's going to go down, because that's going to play also into your underwriting. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to look at the line items and say, okay, how much is coming in from just me, accepting the check from my, from my tenant, from the rent, right? The rent number. And where is that? How much money is coming from, and everything else. And it tells you on the T12, and you can, on the very top, the way that, T12 usually works is that it gives you the total potential rent that you can get right now if you rent all of your units at market rate, right? And then it has something called vacancies. So then what it does is it takes the full potential rent and it takes away, how many empty apartments or units you would have in your building or properties, and it puts it as a negative on there because it counts against your revenue. And then it takes away any kind of concessions. It takes away any kind of so there's a cash for keys programs, and that's, we can get into that later on, but anything that takes away from potential revenue, it is on there. There's also, line items for bad debt, so that if somebody hasn't paid you for a long time and you just want to clear that out, that's where it goes. This is where it goes. It's called the contra revenue line, right? So it counts against your revenue, right? So again, you have your total potential revenue, you take away any kind of vacancy, you take away any kind of bad debt expense or write-off, and then you're left with your net rental income, right? This line item right here. And a good analyzer is going to have, provision for this. It's going to have provision for, total vacancy percentage, any kind of loss to lease, and then, some sort of vacancy or bad debt write-off on there. And so this is what you're actually collecting from rents, right? Right now. And so it takes that number and then it adds to it other, what we call miscellaneous revenue items. Things like, I want your participation on this one. What are things that can bring revenue to your property that are not rent related? What do you guys think? I want to see on the chat. Utilities, yes, you can have a utility chargeback. You can have rubs, right? That gets a little bit more complex, but you can, yeah, exactly. Parking fees, vending machines, very good. Space for, absolutely. If you have a space, that's a great idea. Yes, app fees, laundry machines, yeah, pets, big one for pets.
Real quick.
What's that?
One thing I want to add to that real quick. Be careful of any income that is on a T12 or you're factoring into your numbers that one isn't consistent, or two is something that reflects not a bad tenant, but maybe can change based on how your tenant base changes. Like was mentioned,
example, Ed.
Like late fees or forfeited security deposit. Like these are all things that sure they add to the bottom line and they may be income, but those are things where if you put different tenants in place that aren't late or they're not forfeiting their security deposit, you can't rely on those numbers. Like that, it's very subject to a tenant. Like utility income, I know I can rely on because you have a track record and it's a consistent income. Parking, if you're charging for parking for all the units over a period of time, you know that you're going to fill that bucket for the income. But things such as like, if you do have an event space, what if 1 month or 1 year there's more events? What if something like COVID happens and there's no events? You see, there's too much inconsistency. So it's important when you get to more advanced and deeper underwriting of separating these items and knowing each one. When you present this stuff to a lender and you're trying to get debt, which are the ones they call important to jump on, is they're going to question every line item and you need to have an answer. How have you factored this into your underwriting? Remember, this isn't just I'm purchasing a $20 million property. If you're loaned even 50% of that, a bank or debt or lender, they're trusting you with $10 million. That's That's a lot. Like, if you hand me 10 million right now, you're not getting 10 million back. I'll be straight up with you. Like, at the end of the day, the numbers have to be justified because they don't care if you're the nicest person on earth or if you've done this 100 times or if you've owned tens of thousands of units. They care about this deal because that's the one their skin in the game is invested in.
That's right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Ed. And a lot of this is about having the right principles for underwriting as well, right? You don't want to sandbag the underwriting either, but you also want to be not, the word's not really conservative. You want to be a good traditional underwriter when it comes to these things. And underwriting for late fees is actually, well, first of all, it's not good because one, you don't want people being late to pay you, right? So it actually ends up shooting you in the foot if you have high late fees. Like, for example, what I have highlighted on here, that's several people that are late all the time, right? And that can potentially add to your contra revenue of bad debt expense. So you can lose revenue from this, right? So you don't want to underwrite that because, to Ed's point, you're going to get shredded, with your lender if you start underwriting for these things. But anyway, yeah, so underwriting for rent, yes, be a good traditional underwriter, and also, stay as safe and as conservative as you can while also trying to push for increasing your rents within an acceptable risk and amount of risk.
Then
right.
Also, to jump in real quick too,
Yeah.
if you notice things that you can implement, rubs, valet, parking space, storage, and you'd see that they're not in the T12 or they're not capitalizing on those opportunities, and you're confident like, hey, we can do it because of XYZ, or have space where I can have laundry and I can capitalize on this, don't shy away from that either. Because then you're just neglecting something that a lender would like to know, like
You're leaving money on the table. Yeah,
exactly. And the lender is like, hey, they have a plan on how to improve this. You have to paint the full picture. You have to tell the story. This isn't a traditional single family house is worth this. I want this. I make this much. I have this much saved, and it's a done deal. You're writing a book here. You're telling the story.
absolutely right, man. And so you'll see all those different line items over here between 16 and 24. And you see the damages. If you see a bunch of damages, man, ask questions. Ask a lot of questions as to why that happens. If you see 1 month of cash for keys program, well, that could be a good thing. Like, for example, right here, 1 month had $36,000 of cash for keys program. What does that even mean? Well, that means that they paid a bunch of people to leave, right? So you're turning over tenants, which can be a good thing, but right now it's hurting your revenue, right? And so keeping in mind all of these things to tell the story, like Ed was saying, is a really, really good thing. So,
and check for correlation real quick. Check for correlation. If you have a high damage and cleaning fee, but you're not expensing anything to cover that, so does that mean the damage just stayed damaged? Like no one cared to fix it? Like if I have a hole in the wall, but I have nothing, no expense, they're saying I filled the hole in the wall. It costs money for anyone to do anything. Nothing's free. Just because you collected a fee on it doesn't mean you shouldn't expense it. You have to have, it's like the whole debit and credit thing in accounting. There has to be a relationship there where if I'm collecting money for X, that has to be taken care of. Hey, where is the exit of that? Like that's why it scares me if you see utility revenue come in. Is there utility on the expense list? Like that there's such flawed accounting essentially. So that's important to keep in mind as well. Like, and you want to know what those damages were. You want to know what those repairs were. And that's comes back to like Monday's calls with the brokers. When you do even a simple napkin underwriting, you look at what their T12 looks like, you can ask 100 questions and that might not be enough. Obviously, I'm not saying do that on every single deal because that could take a lot of time, but it'll help you get familiar with the common question to ask. You'll get better at looking at it. You'll know where to look, and then it just becomes second nature at that point. It's like driving. Like you just zone out. You end up at your destination. You're like, oh, that was quick.
No, don't zone out. Don't zone out unless you're driving. Yeah, don't listen to Ed on that one.
traffic, I can't go anywhere. On the freeway, I'm going 5 miles per hour. What do you want me to do?
That's LA people for you, man. No, get out of here.
It's not my
Okay.
fault.
No, no, you're absolutely right, Ed. Look for correlations. And just to kind of recap, you have your rent revenue, and then you have miscellaneous miscellaneous revenue that comes in. And what you want to underwrite for is your rents, your vacancies, and your bad debt expense, in addition to things that can be solid or that you can project with enough confidence, like pet fees. If you know how many pets you have, things like rubs or utility income, you underwrite those things because those can be predictable. Everything else you leave completely off, and you accept them as they come, right? So with that said, I think we've covered this enough, and I would like to really get to a deal here. Mark, you had your hand up previously. Is there a deal you want us to run through on here?
No, I just had some questions
Sure.
based on some trailing 12s that I'd looked at on previous deals that we were reviewing, and you ended up answering those questions. So
Oh, good.
I was a little ahead of the game on that.
Awesome. What were the questions, just so that other people can know?
Well, when it shows all the late fees, is that kind of is that a warning when you see a huge late fee, when it's showing like 30 grand in late fees on something? Granted, the units we were looking at, it was like almost 300 units. So it just kind of made me go, wow, that's kind of a huge chunk of late fees.
Yeah.
And kind of address that, especially not to include it in underwriting, because you don't want that's a fluctuating thing. So you don't want to include that. So that was helpful.
Yeah, man. And it depends.
You bring up a great point where the unit size does matter in that. Like, what is it per unit? I think that kind of and at the end of the day, these are just numbers on a cell sheet in an Excel that they put together for their accounting. There's a story behind it. If there's a drastic increase one month and it's very low the next, did something change? Could a property management change hands? You see very often, or at least I've seen it before, where a new property management comes in and they clean house and then you see 2 months where all your numbers are out of whack, and then you see it become consistent again. And especially, it's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. It's just a business. It is what it is. When you think about it, if a seller has the idea, like, I'm selling in the next 6 months, I'm selling in the next 8 months, maybe a year, you're preparing for that sale. You're trying to maximize every line item because that'll increase your value. If I'm selling something, you're not going to run it into the ground where it's solely based on the numbers. You want to make sure you're selling it at the best you can possibly put it for sale today within your limits. If I know that something on my mind, I'm gonna make sure my numbers look good, as much as they can, obviously, without falsifying.
Yeah, and then it would be up to us, the buyer, to really ask those questions to get to know, okay, what are the real rents, or what, so yeah, I can see the seller, you'd want to make the property look as best it can.
And if the broker doesn't know, why haven't they asked? If a broker, especially if it's a broker, if I'm licensed in Los Angeles, if I see something and I don't ask, it's like, what am I avoiding? Like, that's something you should know the answer to.
Yeah,
That's right. Ken, did you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
It's Mark, right? Yeah,
Yes.
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, cool. So that's a really good question. You're looking at a 300 unit property, you're going to have bad debt, man. I mean, if you look at a 50 unit property, you're going to have bad debt. What's the most important? There's a couple of things to note about bad debt. Number one, it helps you understand the tenant quality that you have in place. That's number one. Number two, you may be looking at a property that maybe was just turned around. If it was just turned around, there's likely going to be a ton of bad debt. So if that's going to, that's the story behind maybe now when you go in and do your due diligence, you see a bunch of good credit reports, good quality tenants, good cars in the parking lot. You can see, wait a minute, I can see that they said they turned this thing around. They threw out all the bad people, and it makes sense, right? Because now you're driving around, you're checking out the lease files, everything looks good. So that's the most important thing about bad debt. And then it also matters how the people are accounting for bad debt, because there's a lot of people that don't understand accounting very well. I mean, the right way to do it is, well, I think the right way to do it is the way we do it, but you want to have somewhat of a clue. If you have bad debt that is in the 5 to 10% range of gross revenue, then you're like, oh man, there's a tough deal here. You will find bad debt to be higher in tougher neighborhoods, because those people tend to live paycheck to paycheck, and any little blip in their life creates a problem for you. So you just have to underwrite that. Whereas if you're in an amazing neighborhood, people make tons and tons of money, you're probably not going to have any bad debt at all, right? It speaks to the tenant quality. So you're always going to have it. We will project it going forward. What I typically do is, if assuming that's a relatively stable property, I'll project the same late fees going forward. There's nothing wrong with that. The lenders all know you're going to get a late fee. I mean, if you don't pay on the 5th in our world, we're charging you $100, and I'm happy to have half the place pay on the 6th. I'm totally cool with that, because that's a lot of money, right? So I just wanted to chime in, because there's a lot to be learned from bad debt. What you don't want to do is have a property with 10% bad debt and then do your year zero projection and budget 0.5%, right? That would just be a bad call, because that's not going to happen, and the lender's not going to drink the same Kool-Aid you are either. So they're gonna do their own little underwriting on that. I don't know. Hopefully that's helpful a little bit, but it's a really good question, and this is the challenge when underwriting, right? What do you do with that one little line item? What does it tell you? Why do you care? How do you project it going forward? And that's what we would do.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That was huge, Ken. I appreciate that. And that's going to be hard to follow. But I wanted to add one little thing here, and there could be, because there's so many different levers that can be pulled, and if you pull one lever, it can affect another lever, right? And so this can also potentially, as a buyer, affect the collectibles, right? Which is also something that the lender looks at, and it could affect your terms as well on your loan. So it's just something to take a look at, and to ask questions around exactly what these two fine gentlemen have been saying. It's just a peephole for you to be able to look through and be able to figure out what the context is around that specific situation, because every single one is different.
Yeah, can I make one more comment if you don't mind? If I'm out of time, just tell me. But I want to. One of the things that happens when you buy larger properties, you're generally going to have more sophisticated accounting systems and more sophisticated sellers. So what we do is, when someone moves out, I want you to think about what's going on in real life, because that's what accounting is. It's just putting real life on paper so that it makes sense, right? So let's say in real life, somebody moves out and we go and inspect that unit. Well, it's our job as the owner and the manager to find all the things that they broke, that they didn't leave the way they should, and we're going to charge them for it. But here's the thing. Let's pretend like it was an eviction, or they're already gone, and we're going to charge their account for, hundreds of dollars maybe, but they're not going to be standing there ready to pay it. So now you've actually increased all these other income items, but now they're gone. They're not going to pay it right away. So you actually have to write it off. So now it becomes bad debt. But so you're thinking, well, Ken, why would you do that? You arbitrarily charged all this income and then you wrote it off as bad debt. Aren't you in the same place? The answer is no, because now when you send that file for collection, that 30%, 33% the collection agent takes, guess what? It's all those extra charges just offset all the fees that they're going to charge you. And so if you never charge those fees, you can never collect those fees. But in the accounting system, we treat those write-offs differently than rent write-offs, because we literally made those charges up. They're legitimate, but we booked them and then we wrote them off. You want to separate that from your rent charge-off. The guy didn't pay his rent. That's a completely different story. So you said you're looking at a 300 unit. So if you're looking at 300 units, there's a real chance that you're going to have more sophisticated sellers, and you got to dig into that bad debt, because if somebody didn't take the time to bifurcate that bad debt write-off and they just dumped it all in one place, it's going to look like all this rent wasn't collected, and that may not be the case. So again, it goes back down to the whys. You got to understand the whys. And if you're a seller, if you've ever been a seller, brokers, the good brokers they'll go through your numbers and they'll say to you, Mr. Seller, explain to me why your bad debt is so high. What's the story? What do I tell people? And don't lie to them, right? But excuse me, they're trying to dig in and figure out what that story is so that they can explain it to the buyer. Very similar to what I just did. It is the reason, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, we decided to split out those two components of bad debt because we found it was hurting us. It looked like we were not collecting a bunch of rent. In reality, we literally charged $1,000 and then wrote off $1,000, right? And it was literally hurting us, and we didn't understand that. So anyway, I know that was very long-winded, but hopefully it helps just illustrate the fact that you've got to dive in and understand the stories.
Absolutely. And then here's another thing I want to add to that. This isn't going to be as common, but be aware that you are going to run into properties or portfolios where, for example, the one I'm looking at is 120 units, but it's across 2 buildings. And every seller may have their own, like, oh, I put these expenses on this one, but these expenses are on this one. And it's like separate, divide and conquer kind of thing. Like, so essentially the situation with this one is, oh, our all of the, I think the salaried employees or anyone on the books was only on one T12, but it was for both. I think it's a maintenance crew. It's like, oh, the maintenance crew does both buildings. It's like, okay, but you need to know that. Like, if we don't ask that question, we're like, why is it here but not there? Lender's gonna, one, look at you like, what's going on? 2, you don't know, like, for your own underwriting. So am I saying it's gonna happen every time? No. But it's important to keep in mind when anytime you include portfolios, especially if it was accumulated and or purchased at the same time by the seller and they're trying to offload it at the same time, it's really important to make sure you ask, like, hey, is this for a specific one of the 2 or one of the 3 in the portfolio, or is this for all of them? Like, how are each of these numbers separated? Because then you're entering an accounting nightmare at that point, which, as much as I love going through numbers and underwriting, that's one I don't want to unravel. That's messy. Any other question? I think it's easier if we just go off of any other questions at this point.
Yeah.
Than been trying to dive into the napkin tonight. I think we've got time for like 1 or 2 more questions.
Well, this was really great. I think that, you know, if nothing else we can get out here is numbers tell a story. They always tell a story, but they don't always communicate it clearly, right? So you have to open up the hood and you have to dig in there. You have to diagnose and try to see what the problem is, right? Because like I said, there are a ton of levers, and as you know, can just explain in like 5 minutes something so deeply complex that is only a part of kind of what goes on as an operator and as an accountant in, you know, in these operations. And so it's so important to not only have the mindset of asking questions, but also understanding how to dig in exactly into these things, because it's going to play a role in as you start to underwrite more sophisticatedly. You start getting into your analyzers and or just any spreadsheet, right? You start getting into every single one of the numbers, and you have to be able to tell the right story, through the right way, or through the right accounting types, through the right explanations that, you know, that these brokers tell you. And so, yeah, I hope that what you got from here today is that number one, Ken G is a total G, and also that there is an entire epic, an entire story that is behind the numbers, not just in the P&L, but also from the relationship that you have with the broker. You know, they'll be able to tell you things that are not on the P&L. And also having, you know, side note, also having good relationship with your lender, because they're going to also underwrite your deal, and they're going to give you a list of things that doesn't make sense to them. And so, you know, that's a really good relationship to leverage when it comes to underwriting, because they see things from another way that you don't typically see. So let's see.
Last thing I want to ask you that, don't be scared to ask if something doesn't look right to you. Ask the broker, ask the seller, whoever it is. If you're like truly thinking about, hey, I'm getting close to wanting to put an offer on a property, don't shy away from like, hey, let's just elaborate. What is this line item? What is going into these numbers? At the end of the day, you don't want to buy someone else's problem. You're taking over not just the property, not just, there's a lot of things going into it, and that's why escrow is so long. That's why you have so many due diligence and so many people double checking and rechecking and verifying. And Aldo and I were talking about this before before we started it on the call before 5 o'clock my time. But what it was is you're putting so much risk capital up before you even open escrow. Make sure you answer as many questions you may have before you get to that point. When a PSA is being prepared and reviewed, when your EMDs due, when your inspections are being done, that's all money that you can't get back, or time, to be fair. Like that, it's really important to make sure you're asking all those questions and clearing up anything that you're not sure about before you get too far into the process and you're putting money up that is not going to come back if you don't ask the right questions before. Obviously, EMD you can get back, but once an inspection is paid for, no inspector is going to turn around like, oh yeah, not a problem. Here's your money back. It's be aware of that too.
Absolutely. You know what, Ed? I think we're gonna call it. We're 2 minutes before the hour, and I think we have had some really, really great conversations today. We're grateful that every single one of you has been on. Mark, thanks for your engagement on here.
Mark, you're in LA.
Yeah, I'm in LA,
I am too.
but I'm not buying in California, just to be clear.
I'm not either, don't worry.
I don't think anyone's buying in California. So, but yeah, thank you guys for that, and you know, an absolutely huge thanks to Ken, not just for being on tonight, but also for chiming in and bringing in, you know, not only tons of value, but the wisdom that he's had over the you know, several decades that he's got. So we're super thankful to you, Ken, and to your team for everything that you do with and for us as well. And we're hoping that we can you know, be of value to you all, and that every single one of you on this call is taking action around the things that we talk about, and also getting better and better every day, even if it's 1% better every day. So
I did put the affiliate link again to the underwriting. Yes, we have recorded this. It will go up on the YouTube. Leonard, that was mean. It's a whole state track. I love. We'll talk about California another time, but I love California. I eventually want to own a lot in California, but that's just me.
what did you say? California, LA, San Francisco, any good, or is it home? It's a beautiful state. How about we just say it's a beautiful state, especially NorCal. It's a beautiful state. Anywhere away from Ed. So anyway, that's that. So yeah, he put in the affiliate link. Guys, if you have any questions, again, let us know. You have the link to the napkin underwriting tool. You guys go out there, knock it out, and have an amazing rest of your week.
Good night, guys.